What if the greatest warriors the world has ever known weren't dressed in armor, didn't carry shields or swords, but simply mastered the ability to remain calm when the world demanded a reaction? What if the most important battles of our lives weren't visible to others at all, but happened quietly inside our own hearts, in moments of anger, shame, or fear? And what if, more than 2,500 years ago, there was a man who not only understood this, but lived it so powerfully, his words still echo through the minds of seekers today? That man was Confucius. And among his many teachings, there's one quote that continues to resonate with anyone walking the mindful path. He who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior. In today's noisy world where people race to be seen, to be right, to be heard, this ancient truth reminds us of something we forget far too often. Real strength isn't about dominance. It's about discipline. Real wisdom isn't about winning arguments. It's about winning your own inner battles. And real power? It's not how loud you are. It's how still you can be when everything else shakes. So in this episode of Mindful Way Television Asterisk, we're not just reflecting on a quote, we're uncovering how one man's wisdom shaped generations through actions that speak louder than any words. Let's begin with a story that reveals the true strength of restraint. Part 1. The Power of Restraint. The Minister and the Silent Smile. There was a day when Confucius stood in a public square, surrounded by onlookers. A powerful minister, known for his pride, decided to challenge him. In front of everyone, he mocked Confucius's teachings. He questioned his morals, his value, his voice. The crowd held its breath. Would Confucius respond? Would he argue back? Would he defend his honor? Instead, Confucius did something far more surprising. He simply smiled and said nothing. Hours passed. The tension dissolved. Later that evening, one of his young disciples asked, "Master, why did you remain silent? Why did you let him speak to you like that?" Confucius looked up calmly and said, "When a dog barks at the moon, should the moon bark back?" He added, "If I allow his anger to enter me, I become him. But if I remain at peace, I remain myself." That moment wasn't about pride, it was about presence. It wasn't about who won the crowd, but who kept their soul intact. In mindfulness, this is the practice of restraint. The ability to pause before we react, to choose silence over ego, to let stillness be our strength. And in that pause is where true peace begins. Part 2. The True Test of Wisdom. The 3-year mourning. In the previous story, we witnessed the quiet strength of Confucius, the power of restraint in the face of provocation. But wisdom, like strength, has many faces. And sometimes, the greatest test of wisdom is not in how we deal with conflict, but in how we honor love and loss. In ancient China, it was a common custom for children to mourn the death of a parent for 3 full years. During this time, they would step away from official duties, dress in plain clothing, and live a simpler life to show deep respect. One day, a disciple of Confucius came to him in private. His father had just passed away. "Master," he asked softly, "must I really mourn for 3 whole years? It feels like too much. Would 1 year not be enough?" Instead of giving him a direct answer, Confucius responded with a question of his own. "When you were a baby," he said, "who nursed you? Who carried you when you could not walk? Who lost sleep when you cried at night? fed you before himself, and protected you before you even understood danger. The disciple remained silent. Confucius continued gently. For the first 3 years of your life, your father gave himself entirely to your care. Every moment, every breath. Is it truly so unreasonable to give 3 years in return to honor that gift of life with your time, your presence, your gratitude? The young man bowed his head. He had his answer. Confucius rarely enforced rules. Instead, he illuminated meaning. And in a world like ours where people are often told to move on quickly, to get over it, to return to productivity, this ancient wisdom reminds us that mindfulness is not about speed, it's about presence. To mourn is not to be weak, it is to feel fully, to respect deeply, and to honor the unseen ties that shape our souls. In the practice of mindfulness, this becomes a vital truth. We cannot rush past what matters most. Grief is not an interruption. It is a ritual, a sacred time to remember what love once looked like. As we turn the page to our next story, we move from honoring the past to courageously shaping the future. Part 3. The Courage to Walk Away. When Confucius left the court. In our previous story, we saw how Confucius taught that honoring the past stand those who shaped uses, a powerful act of mindfulness. But what happens when staying somewhere begins to dim our spirit? When being loyal to a place, a title, or a system means betraying yourself? That's when wisdom takes on a different form. Courage. Confucius once served as an advisor in a royal court. At first, the ruler respected his insights. He welcomed his philosophy, his sense of justice, and his guidance on governing with virtue. But as time passed, things began to change. The court grew corrupt. Decisions were driven by ego, power, and greed. Honesty became a liability. Confucius's voice, once sought after, was now conveniently ignored. Friends and officials whispered, "Just stay. Keep your position. At least from the inside, you have influence. If you leave, you lose your voice." But Confucius didn't argue. He didn't protest. He didn't try to fight the current. Quietly, one day, he gathered his few belongings, and he walked away. When asked why, he said simply, "When a river is poisoned, no fish can swim in it. I would rather walk in poverty than sit in poison." It wasn't a dramatic exit. There was no public statement, no retaliation, just the quiet power of a man choosing alignment over attachment. Some believe that walking away is giving up. But in the mindful way, we know. Sometimes, it's the most powerful choice of all. To leave a place where your soul cannot breathe. To say no, even when comfort is on the table. To let go not out of fear but out of fierce loyalty to your values. This is not weakness. This is non-attachment. This is choosing freedom over false security. As we move into our final reflection, we'll explore how these teachings restraint, reverence, and release here. Not ancient relics, but tools for the modern soul. What if real wisdom didn't come with applause, but with quiet choices no one notices? Imagine a life where your greatest victories aren't on display, but are found in how you respond when your ego is tested, your patience stretched, your peace disturbed. Confucius understood this long before mindfulness had a name. He didn't just preach calm, he lived it. And maybe that's the kind of strength the world needs now, more than ever. So when Confucius said, "He who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior," He wasn't delivering a slogan for battle. He was giving us a compass for the inner battlefield we all face. He was speaking to the part of you that wants to lash out but chooses silence. To the part of you that wants ease but chooses honesty. To the part that aches to be understood but chooses to understand first. That part of you, that's the real warrior. Because real warriors aren't the loudest in the room. They're the ones who've mastered the art of being still when it matters most. And sometimes, being still is the most radical act of all. It takes courage to pause before reacting. It takes strength to walk away from what is familiar but untrue. It takes wisdom to honor pain with patience, not panic. So if you're listening to this and something inside you whispered, "Yes, yes, I've been holding on too tightly. Yes, I've forgotten how powerful stillness can be. Yes, I've been strong for others, but not always kind to myself." Then know this: you are not alone, and you are not weak. You are just human, and beautifully so. This isn't just a story about Confucius. This is your invitation to reclaim your quiet strength, to let go of what no longer serves you, to begin again with intention and with heart. So before you move on to the next thing, pause, take one breath, and ask yourself, what am I ready to let go of? If this episode touched you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone you know is silently struggling. Someone strong not in their defenses, but in their depth. And if that person is you, then welcome. You've found your space. Subscribe to Mindful Way TV, because here, we don't chase noise. We create clarity. We don't escape life. We meet it with mindfulness and meaning. Until next time, stay soft, stay grounded, and always stay true.